So I'm going to tip my hat a little bit here to Sledgehammer Games and say I'm rather impressed at how well they've balanced the weapons here in Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer. It was extremely hard for me to pin down my exact top 5 weapons here in Season 4, and I easily could have made a top 10 list. But nonetheless, I have been able to narrow down the top 5. I did throw a couple honorable mentions in there that easily could fall in other people's top 5 lists. Let's not put off any more time. Let's get into it. So I'm going to start my list here with the new marksman rifle addition to the game in the Kar98K. Now, this is one of those that could definitely fall in the top 5 of a lot of other people's, but personally, I'm not a sniper or marksman rifle user. So it just by default doesn't really classify as a top 5 weapon to me. It is extremely good. It's extremely easy to use, fast aim down sight speed, and very good for quick scoping. But like I said, just doesn't really suit my personal playstyle, so it doesn't fall within my top 5 list. Starting here with our first attachment, I do have an optic with the Range Caller V3.4. Obviously, the Kar98 has a very good iron sight, so you can definitely run that or a different optic altogether. I'm running this one in particular because it reminds me a lot of the original Kar98K scope, but like I said, feel free to run whatever you want here. For a stock, I am running the Repeller Tac stock for aim walking speed, aim walking steadiness, and aim down sight speed. A lot of you may be asking why not the no stock, and it's quite simple. If you want to run a scope with the no stock attachment, I'll show you quickly exactly what I'm going to be talking about. It kind of bugs out. So as you can see here, I put the no stock on. It has that black ring around it. And like I said, it kind of bugs it out. That's the only reason I'm not going with no stock. If they end up fixing that, I'll probably swap it out. Over here to a sling, I am going with the target sling for aim down sight speed. Rather self-explanatory. When you have a quick scopey sniper rifle or marksman rifle like this one, you do want to increase the aim down sight speed. It's only going to increase it 5% there, but 5% is better than none. For the barrel, I am going with the Bryson Carbine S barrel for aim walking speed, hip fire, and tac stance spread, along with aim down sight speed. It just kind of follows the rest of the theme of the build when it comes down to aggression and getting up close and personal with people with quick scopes. And I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but we have a laser sight that's going to target aim down sight speed along with sprint to fire speed, the SL Razorhawk laser sight. As many of the people on the channel know, I'm not a big fan of laser sights that stick out like this one, but when you are using a quick scopey sniper rifle, it's not really a big deal simply because if you're going to be quick scoping, it barely ever shows up. So that's going to give you aim walking steadiness, tac stance spread, sprint to fire speed, and aim down sight speed. It's that sprint to fire and ADS I'm really interested in at 7% to the ADS and 15% to the sprint to fire speed. So here's all of your attachments on the screen. If you guys were interested in copying this honorable mention down, I haven't posted this on the channel just yet, but it's going to be coming in the very near future. So if you guys are looking for a gameplay with this, make sure you guys have those noties on. I'm going to have that out very, very soon. For my honorable mention number 2, I'm going to have the BAL 27. And this one was really hard to keep off of my top 5 list. And in fact, without the additions of the new weapons in the game, it definitely would have fallen in my top 5. A very versatile choice of weaponry. It has great mobility, a good aim down sight speed, and a good damage range. Like I said, it was very hard to keep off of my top 5 list, but unfortunately, the ones that I put on my list just happened to be a little better, but this is no slouch. It's probably going to fall at number 6 if I were to do a top 10. Starting with our first attachment, we do have the Ardent Tac stock for gun kick control, fire aiming stability, along with even more recoil control. Just one of the several recoil attachments we do have on this particular build, but this one's extremely important. A massive 29% to the gun kick there, along with 7% to the horizontal and vertical recoil control. This is going to simply make it easier to hit your shots at longer ranges. For the rear grip, another attachment targeting recoil control. Like I said, one of several. This is going to give you recoil and gun kick, so we're not getting any fire aiming stability here, but we are getting a solid 10% straight across the board to your gun kick, horizontal, and vertical recoil control. Kind of the same reason we chose this stock, minus that fire aiming stability. Now to speed up the weapon a bit, we have the DR6 hand stop for aim down sight speed, aim walking speed, sprint to fire speed, and movement speed. Like I said, it's a very versatile choice of weaponry, and this is one of the attachments that helps it become that. So as you can see here on the screen, we have a bunch of mobility, 4% to the movement, 8% to the crouch movement, 6% to the ADS movement speed, an additional 8% to the ADS, and 7% to the sprint to fire speed. Like I said, just kind of boosts that versatility here. For a muzzle, we have the Purifier muzzle brake, and this one's going to take away bullet velocity and damage range, but in the next attachment, you're going to see why that's not exactly extremely important. The reason I chose this particular muzzle over the others is we're not sacrificing aim down sight speed here. We are getting horizontal recoil control along with fire aiming stability, which are both extremely important attributes that needed to be gained here on the BAL 27. So it's 18% to the horizontal recoil control, but more importantly, we're gaining that fire aiming stability, which is the visual shake on the weapon. And our final attachment is the Cronen H3 barrel. That's going to increase your bullet velocity and damage range. Like I just said, it's not extremely important that we just lost some, simply because we're going to be gaining some with this attachment at 20% to the damage range. We're at a nice 39.8 meter damage range. That's above average for a lot of assault rifles in this game, along with 11% added to the bullet velocity. We are also gaining some very small values towards movement with this attachment as well. So I made a video on the channel for the BAL 27 about 2 weeks ago, and I called it the most versatile build in Modern Warfare 3. This is more or less the same build, except I've now improved upon it. So be expecting another video for this particular build in the very near future as well. This one's a banger, extremely low recoil and great mobility at that. Now, starting our actual top 5 here with the Rival 9, this has actually moved down my list quite a bit, simply due to the introduction of other weapons and buffs to other weapons as well. This used to sit at number 1 and number 2 on my list for basically the past 3 seasons. But like I said, there's been some introductions and some buffs that have changed my perspective on this one. It does lack a lot when it comes to damage range. It's extremely good aggressive option, but it's not a weapon that's overall very versatile. However, at medium and close range, there's not much that can beat this thing, especially for accurate players. So this attachment right here is a stock. The MTZ Marauder stock is basically how we're going to be building out the entire weapon. We're going to be targeting fire aiming stability first and foremost, along with gun kick control. This weapon has a crazy kick to it, along with crazy shake, so that's the primary reason we're targeting that. So gun kick control and fire aiming stability is what's gained here. We got 10% there to the gun kick, along with that very important fire aiming stability. For the rear grip, we have the Rival Vice Assault Grip for gun kick control, fire aiming stability, and recoil control. I don't really need to talk about this too much. We just talked about it with the stock. We get 10% to the gun kick, 7% to the horizontal and vertical recoil control, along with fire aiming stability. For an underbarrel, we're once again going to be using the DR6 hand stop to speed up the weapon or increase the aggression here. We got movement and aim down sight speed, but it's going to be a little better here simply because it's an SMG versus an assault rifle. So 6% to the movement, 11% to the crouch movement, along with 6% to the ADS movement speed, 11% to the ADS speed, and 7% to the sprint to fire speed. Arguably one of the most important attachments of this entire build, simply because of how aggressive the weapon is. So the Purifier muzzle brake is making another appearance here, and it's the same reason as last time. We wanted to get some recoil control along with fire aiming stability while not sacrificing any aim down sight speed. And once again, we're losing damage range, but that's not going to be really a big deal when you consider our next attachment. So it's 18% to the horizontal recoil control along with fire aiming stability. And our final attachment is the Rival C-Shot Clear Barrel for aiming auto sway, bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil control. So like I just stated, we did just lose some damage range with the muzzle, but we're gaining it right back with 13% to the damage range, 15% to the bullet velocity, and then some small values towards recoil control, which do end up being important in the long run. So not a lot of times do pro player setups end up working out in 6v6 pubs. But in this particular case, it does, simply due to the aggression. It's very good on small maps, has a fast aim down sight speed, and it still classifies, like I said, as the best SMG in the game. Basically, the rest of my list is going to be longer ranged weapons due to the versatility, but this is no slouch. My aggressive players know how good the Rival 9 is, and this is the setup you should be running. So at number 4, we have an aftermarket part that turns the BP50 into an SMG while still maintaining its AR statistics. So this is what I technically consider to be the best SMG in the game, but it's an assault rifle at the end of the day, and there's no arguing that. They've already nerfed this thing, and it still falls in the top 5, so that should speak volumes to how good the BP50 conversion kit actually is. It's got low recoil, very good aim down sight speed, very good mobility, and like I stated, we have great AR statistics still with it. So the first attachment you're going to need is the JAK Revenger Kit, because it's going to give you magazine ammo capacity, which is going to basically turn it into a 60-round drum SMG, along with vertical recoil control, aim down sight speed, and movement speed. We are going to sacrifice some bullet velocity and damage range, along with horizontal recoil control, but I'm going to make up for a lot of that. So I'm going to hide my camera here. You can see we are gaining a rate of fire increase by 15%, bringing it up to 983.6 rounds per minute, which is technically faster than the Rival 9, along with all of the mobility 23% to the aim down sight speed, 20% to the sprint to fire speed, and then 30% to the vertical recoil control. So fun fact, this thing has almost the identical aim down sight speed as the rival 9 with a very comparable sprint to fire speed. This thing, if you match the statistics up, is almost identical with one glaring difference. The rate of fire is much higher. For a rear grip here, you're going to want the TRST IV grip tape to help control some recoil control. So we're not speeding the weapon up here, but because it has AR-like statistics, we need some recoil control to help it make it compete. I'm not going to say it's good at long range, but I've definitely used it in long range, and the recoil is low enough that you should have no problems whatsoever challenging gunfights in those ranges. So we're going to get 10% here to the gun kick, along with horizontal and vertical recoil control at 7%. For an ammunition type, I am going with the high grain rounds to increase the bullet velocity and damage range. You may be asking why do that if it has AR-like statistics. It's going to make sense in just a second when I go over to that muzzle category. I needed to increase that damage range simply because I'm going to be losing some. Yeah, so the Purify muzzle brake is here again. I'm not going to explain this attachment. Horizontal recoil control, fire aiming stability at the sacrifice of bullet velocity and damage range. That's the exact reason we did choose the high grain rounds. So we did lose 10% here, but we technically gained 15% from those high grain rounds. And my final attachment is the 1 milliwatt quick fire laser for an aim down sight speed increase. It's gonna be nothing crazy here, just a 5% increase. If you guys want to run a different laser sight here, feel free to do so. I just talked about it with the Kar 98K. I'm not a fan of the laser sights that stand out unless I'm using something like a sniper rifle. So in this particular case, the 1 milliwatt quick fire laser gives me aim down sight speed with 0 cons to running it. So as I stated in the quick little intro there, they already nerfed it, but it definitely doesn't feel like it. I'm not sure exactly what they did to change it. I believe it was a little bit to the sprint to fire, maybe a little bit of the mobility, but it's still one of the best aggressive weapons in the game. And if you haven't unlocked the JAK Revenger Kit, you definitely need to do so. It definitely falls in the top 5 here. So at number 3, I have the SVA 545, and a lot of people may think I'm crazy. The professional Call of Duty players banned this thing very early on in the life cycle simply because it was too good at close range gunfights. This thing acts as an SMG in AR form, but it has a great damage range to top it off. So with the right attachments, you can have a best of all worlds, a very versatile build. So that's good at long range, medium range, and close range. My first attachment here is the MK3 reflector. That is a self-explanatory one. It's a preference. Feel free to run whatever you want here, but if you're trying to copy it identically, I do have the MK3 reflector. For the stock, I have the main V6 stock for recoil control and gun kick control, simply to make it easier to hit your long-range shots, and it's in a very important attachment for 21% to the gun kick, 8% to the horizontal and vertical recoil control. For the rear grip here, the Demo 650 grip for fire aiming stability, gun kick control, and recoil control. Another attachment just like the stock, of course, that's going to make it easier to hit your shots, but this time we are gaining fire aiming stability. The SVA 545 does have quite a bit of a shake to it without the right attachments, and that's exactly where this one comes in handy. So we're getting that fire aiming stability along with 10% to the gun kick and 7% to the horizontal and vertical recoil control. For the underbarrel, the DR6 hand stop, you're noticing we are using a lot of the same attachments. The DR6 hand stop is going to increase your aggression with aim down sight speed, aim walking speed, sprint to fire speed, and movement speed. I feel like I don't need to show all the movement. I'll hide my camera in case you really want to see, but the main reason I chose this is going to be the aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed at 8%. And the final attachment is the Zem compensated flash hider that's going to give you vertical and horizontal recoil control and even more fire aiming stability. I feel like all of those categories needed a little bit more touching on, which is exactly why this muzzle kind of fits perfectly. So we're going to get 5% to the horizontal recoil control, 15% to the vertical recoil control, along with that fire aiming stability. When you match that muzzle up with the rear grip, all of that fire aiming stability or visual shake is taken care of on this weapon. So this is the build that I featured in my best settings video, and I got a lot of questions about it. So if you guys were looking for that one, here it is. It did have some minor changes in forms of the underbarrel, but more or less this is the same build, just improved upon in my opinion. So many of you may have watched my last top 5 weapon video, and you would have noticed that the MCW got bumped down to number 5 because they nerfed the headshot multiplier along with the sprint to fire speed on it. But they now buffed up the headshot multiplier once again, making it to have the ability to 4-shot kill. And on top of that, there's an addition of an attachment that's going to really change the outlook of this entire weapon. It's an attachment that was already banned. I'm talking day 1. by the professional players. So for our first attachment, I like to use the MK3 reflector. Again, feel free to choose whatever you want to. You can go with the iron sights, possibly zoomed in scope if you want to. The MK3 reflector is just my preferred optic of choice. Now for a stock, we have the JAK Cutthroat, and this is definitely out of left field. I haven't seen many people cover this attachment. This is going to speed up your aggression a ton, making it a very viable, not only long range weapon, but also medium and close range. Now, what this attachment does is speed up the strafe speeds to make it extremely hard for your enemies to hit you. I'm going to hide my screen here. It's mainly that ADS movement speed that we're targeting at 22%, but we're also getting 8% to the crouch movement speed and 6% to the movement speed. For the rear grip, we have the RB Claw PSL grip for fire aiming stability, gun kick control, and recoil control. This attachment is necessary because of what we just sacrificed with the stock. The stock did lose some recoil control, so we had to make up for it here. This is going to give you 10% to the gun kick, 7% to the horizontal and vertical recoil control, along with fire aiming stability. For a muzzle, I am going with the T51R billeted brake. There's a lot of different attachments you can use here. You can go with the billeted brake. You could also go with the Zen compensator. It's going to come down to preference. After testing all of the muzzles out, the billeted brake is what I preferred, simply because I feel like this weapon has more vertical kick than horizontal. So this is going to control your vertical recoil control along with fire aiming stability and gun kick control. So as you can see, we got a massive 32% to the vertical recoil control here, and we're not sacrificing aim down sight speed, so I get to keep that decent aim down sight speed. I feel like this is an unseen MCW setup, so you're definitely going to want to copy this one down before it kind of blows up. I feel like people are going to take recognition to the JAK Cutthroat stock, and you're going to see a lot more of it being used on the MCW. It makes it a much more versatile choice here. Like I said, it's good at close, medium, and long range now, so definitely take advantage while it's early, while I have this out for you guys before other people start discovering it. And at number 1, we have the newest SMG addition to the game, and that's going to be the Superi 46. So I've recently made a no recoil build for this weapon, but I've also just recently discovered a max mobility build that's out of this world. You sprint so fast, you have insane strafe speeds. It's a fast-paced player's dream. The recoil isn't great. It's okay when it comes down to medium range fights, but long range is an absolute no-go. Oh, you guys are just gonna have to wait and see a full-length gameplay on this weapon, or just try it for yourself. You're gonna see exactly what I'm talking about. You absolutely fly. Starting with our first attachment here, we have the Rescue 9 stock, and this is a new one. We have one that gives you tactical sprint speed, and let me tell you, it is really noticeable. We also get movement, sprint speed, and recoil control. An absolutely fantastic attachment. So I'm going to hide my screen here so you can see everything that's being gained. 11% to the movement speed, 8% to the sprint speed, 8% to the tac sprint speed, along with 8% to the horizontal and vertical recoil control. One of the better stocks that's ever been introduced into this game. Down here to a rear grip, we have the Phantom Grip. Normally, I don't like to run under or rear grips that increase your aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed, because you have some sacrifices like recoil control that aren't worth it. In this particular case, it's flinch resistance, and when you're playing super aggressive, flinch resistance isn't a big deal. The only time it's going to play a part is when you're taking super long range fights. So we're going to be gaining 9% to the aim down sight speed, 24% to the sprint to fire speed at the cost of flinch resistance, which, like I said, on SMGs, that's really not a big deal. Between this underbarrel and that stock, that's enough movement alone to make this thing overpowered. We still got more to cover. For the underbarrel, the DR6 hand stop is making another appearance. I'm sounding like a broken record here, but I'm just going to hide my camera simply so you can see the statistics. It's the aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed, which is the primary reason I chose it. 12% to both there, but you are also gaining movement, crouch movement speed, and ADS movement speed. Once again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Purefire muzzle brake is making an appearance once again for horizontal recoil control and fire aiming stability. Little bit of a teaser here. This is the only recoil attachment on the build because that's the only one that's necessary. When you're building out a weapon for mobility, you don't need to target too much recoil control. This is going to give you 18% there to the horizontal recoil control along with fire aiming stability. Yes, we are sacrificing damage range, but in this particular case, who freaking cares, because we're going to be targeting all of the mobility. And our final attachment is the Bore 99 short barrel for hip fire and tac stance spread, sprint to fire speed, aim down sight speed, and movement speed. That's the entire purpose of the build. Nothing to talk about in this. We're going to hide the camera once again so you can see we're gaining 7% to the movement, 8% to the sprint and tack sprint speed, 12% to the ADS movement speed, and 14% to the sprint to fire speed. So now you have a barrel, a stock, and a rear grip, all, I guess you can include the underbarrel in there, all targeting overall mobility, and that's exactly why you absolutely fly around the map. I haven't seen this build put out yet, but boy, put it on. Just put it on. You're going to see how fast you fly around the map. Definitely worthy of the #1 spot, and I'm extremely happy we finally have a new weapon, at least in the SMG category, that classifies as a meta. The SMG meta with the Rival 9 really hasn't changed, and this one arguably takes that spot. In my personal opinion, it's at #1. I could definitely see where some people disagree, but at the same time, it's something different, and I think it's deserving of the #1 spot. I think you're going to see a lot of this used when people realize how fast you move around the map. So those are my top 5 weapons here in Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer. As always, every time I do one of these videos, I want you guys to go down in the comment section and let me know what exactly your top 5 weapons are here in the game. I kind of came up with an idea mid recording this. Would you guys be interested in seeing a top 5 aftermarket part video where I give you guys the best class setups with the best aftermarket parts? Kind of a little different from me, so if you guys are interested, make sure you guys go down in the comment section and let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys hit the like button if this helped you in any kind of way. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're interested in more videos just like this one. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.